Welcome back. As we told you earlier, the jury in the Ross Harris murder trial is expected to start its deliberations later today. Harris is accused in the June 2014 death of his 22-month-old son, Cooper. We want to take a closer look at some of the big questions jurors will be debating. We're joined this morning by criminal defense attorney Jason Swindle. His practice is based in Carrollton and I believe Douglasville as well. You have an office there. In his career, he's handled more than 5,000 criminal cases. So I know you're busy. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks
one of the key questions is that the state of mind of Ross Harris that day when he left his son in the car. Is it hard for the prosecution to convince a jury that he did it deliberately?
Well, that's the critical question. Count one is malice murder, and with malice murder you have to prove that someone killed another person with malice aforethought. I don't think that there's been sufficient evidence in this case for a jury to come back and find the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt on count one. So I would say malice murder count one, no. Count two is felony murder, and the predicate act is cruelty to children in the first degree. Count three is felony murder, and that's cruelty to children in the second degree. Now, that is a critical count that I think the prosecution should have focused on more than anything. That's the critical count that I believe the jury is going to focus on. And I think that's the critical count that he's going to be convicted of.
Wow, a lot to go through there. But he also decided not to take the stand in his own defense. How does that play with jurors when someone is chosen to do that?
Well, human beings naturally want to hear from somebody who's accused of a crime.
It's true.
That's just natural. Yes. And when we go through trials, we often ask jurors during voir dire, what are your thoughts if somebody doesn't testify? Sometimes you don't want them to, and there are a number of reasons. They may not make a good witness. You may have all the evidence in front of you, and you don't want for your client to get up and to, I guess, mess things up when the prosecutor comes in and asks a bunch of questions. And I know these two prosecutors very well, Chuck Boring and Jesse Evans, and that's a formidable team. And it would be a tough decision to put any client on the stand being cross-examined by either one of those guys.
Now, we heard from Cooper's mom and Ross Harris's ex-wife, Leanna Taylor, in some of this. She gave testimony, and she says that she didn't know about his extramarital affairs and that she'd be fine never seeing him again. But does her testimony actually help the prosecution or the defense here?
Helps the defense a tremendous amount. You have a woman who has divorced her husband, says and testified that he has ruined her life, yet says he did not kill my son. That, coupled with the other people who testified that he loved his son, even the Chick-fil-A employee who said that morning to him, you really love your son, don't you? None of that makes sense. And so for the mother of the child to say that after she's been put through everything, huge win for the defense when it comes to testimony and evidence.
Well, this is a case that's taken the nation and is very visible. So thank you for kind of sharing some of those thoughts, because a lot of people are kind of wondering how this is going to go. So thank you for being here and giving us your perspective on this case.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right, Jason. For your time now, 7:44.